everybody. Hello. Welcome to the history of Rome. This is the Forum. You can see the Colosseum back there. We're going to talk about a lot of the specifics, these places. This is maybe the most, I would say, the most historic city in the world that shaped the world as we know it, especially Western civilization. Layers upon histories out there. Let's hear about it. To all my people that watch these, thanks for watching. You know, history nerds, history fans. I just could ramble on about this stuff forever. I love learning about it. And that's just my passion all of a sudden. The history of the world, Rome, you can't get any better than that. There's the Temple of Saturn. The Pontifex Maximus used to hang out there. This is the whole Forum. Roman Forum. But the Roman Forum, great view. Colosseum's way down there. Vestal Virgins Temple. Tons of things. Temple of Concord, 7 BC. Temple of Saturn, 476 BC. Arch of Severus, 203 AD. The Curia Senate building there since really 700s BC, but Julius Caesar built another one. The entire Forum, 753 BC. The Colosseum way down there, 80 AD. Temple of Castor and Phoenix, Gemini twins, forget the date. A million other things of the Forum. Up here on Capitoline Hill, what a view. Up there is Palatine Hill, where Augustus lived. Romulus first started Rome. All the emperors lived. Circus Maximus is down there. Crazy. All right, hello and welcome to the Capitoline Hill, the seat of the Italian government. A very important area to our story here. This is the Capitoline Hill. This whole thing though was rebuilt and designed by Michelangelo himself. And so there's a museum here for the Capitoline. This is like a government building that's super elaborate. One of the major hills where the Roman city and empire started. I'm on it. Up here was the sacred site for the Romans and governance area. There was some temples nearby, like over here. The three triad of deities, the god Jupiter, goddess Juno, who's the goddess of women, and Minerva, the goddess of handicrafts, professions, and later added war, who were worshipped up here. And later, Jesus, church built in the 500s, it's pretty old. Temple of Juno Moneta. Juno is the goddess of women, was right here, or no, right there. And this was a Roman 76 BC, I think, governance building, which is now the current Italian Senate house. And we're going up to the other temple, Jupiter, which is up this way, up these stairs. The last thing, Capitoline Hill. The last thing I promise. Hey, someone just noticed our Geography Now shirt, man. That's super cool. This is the 509 BC Optimus Jupiter Maximus Temple. The largest temple was in central Italy. It's got a cool story. The victorious generals received a blessing from Jupiter coming into this temple when they came back from their conquests and battles. And they got a laurel crown before riding to their triumph in the Forum, which is right down there. The ancient road, which is right there, still exists. And it was here the Roman Senate would meet yearly for a special meeting, asking Jupiter, Tempio del Giove, for guidance, and it's right there. The hill is still the seat of the Roman government, and it's much the same as it has been since Michelangelo's urban planning in the 1500s. Many plazas line the area, and the centerpiece is the statue of Marcus Aurelius. The Senate Palace is built upon a 78 BC records office. which is right here. This is the infamous and famous and incredible sporting arena, the Circus Maximus. Racetrack, chariot races and horse races. Circus Maximus. Oh, look at that. See a chariot race over here at the Circus Maximus, which is now just this big park you can walk around, and I like it. The only pieces of it left are over there. Just a little, must have got, everything else must have got carted away. The shape of it is still here though. That's just shows how massive of a building it was. And the palace back there is also massive, man. I can't get enough of Rome. It's crazy. I'm going Rome nuts. Shout out to Mike Duncan, History of Rome podcast. Your words are coming to life, my friend, and all these things that I'm walking by today. Sun's going down. Looks crazy. That's crazy. Woohoo! Circus Maximus. There's a palace in the background there. There's a new looking tower. There's where the racetrack was. There's this crazy sunset of Roma that looks like the gods are talking to you, or God himself, or whatever you believe. The shape of it is pretty well preserved, actually. And it's super ancient. 700 BC to 500 BC is when it first was built and used. Look at that sun back there for chariot races. And really dope. Because I love sports, and you know, I'm not much of a race fan, but the crowd must have been insane. Look how huge it is. Look at this place. Circus Maximus. So it was used in the old Kingdom of Rome era for the first time, and through the eras of the Republic. So it often had hooligans. The sections of fans were put off in different colors, like the blues, the greens, the reds, the yellows, and they were just crazy. Sometimes they got into like political beefs and would like beat people up in the Senate and stuff, and they really were hooligans. You know, ready, go. You know, what's a famous movie, Ben-Hur, where they had like fatalities trying to film the realistic chariot races of the Circus Maximus. That was a crazy movie in like the 30s or something, 50s. Yeah, so that movie takes place here. It was super dangerous. Riders would get tossed from their horse chariots all the time. They had this interesting thing here where the General Pompey, I think this was right before Caesar's time, maybe in Caesar's time. I don't know the exact year. Check the comments. I guess I'll look it up. All right, but not the Emperor. General Pompey. Man, just all these names and dates. Sorry. The Circus Maximus. Going on off the head here. The general, powerful man Pompey had an event here where several elephants, maybe like 12 to 15 to 20, maybe 50 elephants brought in from Africa, were set out in the racetrack to rampage, and they had to fight against a bunch of gladiators. What a scene that must have been. The gladiators were probably in chariots. Elephants, poor elephants, man, getting speared. And he's over 1,000 years of events. It's really interesting place, fun times. Woo, mosquitoes. And it was right here, and this is all that's left of the ruins, but it kind of goes way over there. The Ortho-Gothic barbarian king wanted to have the last gasps of Roman greatness, so that was the last ever chariot race that was held here, 500s AD. The first ones, though, were in 700s BC. That's a lot of years, baby. That's crazy. Kingdom of Rome had many kings. The famous 7 kings of Rome, 7 best kings of Rome, built up the culture, the military, the economics, and from a city-state of herdsmen to a regional capital. This was the center of that capital, pretty much. 700s and 600s BC, the oldest and still used sewer system was built to flush out and purify the city. That's incredible. 700 BC sewer system, right underneath the ground here. There's a place you can enter it in the Forum of Nerva, which is right over there. All right, so one king laid the ground for the religious calendar and rules, and that stayed popular for 1,000 years and beyond. And it was incorporated many ways later into Christianity, just like this temple turned into a church and another one over there. But that's a whole nother story. Let's stick to the early Roman times here. Like this temple, that was built in the kingdom era. The sons of Jupiter, the Gemini twins, and a bunch of other things around here. The Vestal Virgin's house is right down there. Okay, so different classes started coming about, like the patrician class. They were the higher class. They were descendants of the original senators, and second class was called the plebes. And this caused tension that would come up from time to time. There were also lots of women in the empire, and many slaves and immigrants that didn't really have a political voice, except for the Vestal Virgins. They actually had some sway. Hey, kids group. The culture during the kingdom time was intertwined, and there was a lot of intermarriage with the Etruscans of the north and the Greeks of Magna Graeca to the south. But Rome quickly spread to most of all central Italy. In 509 BC, something very important happened that we're going to talk about at the Senate Hall. Alright, so the end of the kingdom of Rome started. Right here, since the 700s BC, was the spot of the Roman Senate, which existed during the time of the king, but in 509 BC, the monarchy of Rome was outlawed by the Senate. The last tyrannical King Tarquin, who was a tyrant, did all kinds of terrible things, but the last straw was when he raped a wife of a powerful man after a party, probably a senator. She was so ashamed that she committed suicide in front of her father, husband, and another general that had a lot of power when they confronted her about it. So they banished that king forever. So a revolution was hashed out to banish him. And the democratic Roman Republic was established. Here in the Forum, that's a big deal. Two men called consuls were elected to be a prime minister and a president of sorts to share power. And one important aspect of it was the consuls could only serve for 1 year, so they couldn't gain too much power. USA kind of has a similar thing, 4 years, and you have to be elected again for another 4. 8 is the maximum. This was only 1 year, so you know, you couldn't be a for-life dictator or emperor or anything in the Roman Republic. You know, and also it was two people, so they had to check each other. If one started getting too crazy, the other one was like, hey, take it easy, take it easy. You know, it was a system so that they wouldn't have another tyrant king ever again. And okay, one could veto the power of another council. Large and massive, important temple of Jupiter was planned, but and finished by the Republic that overlooked the Forum, which I think is up there somewhere. We're in the Forum, so we're by the Senate House. I think it might be right there. A massive temple was built during this time in the early Republican days, potentially over there. So over the next several decades, there was some political strife and classism. Gangs of plebes, remember the plebes were the lower class people. Gangs of plebes would beat people in the Forum right here that they didn't agree with. Like a form of thuggery, and the patricians did the same thing. They would gang up on people that they had arguments with and jump them in this area. Was created called the office of tribune to put into check and to get some law and order, which the Senate was okay with. And also the 12 tables laws was established to combat this. There were rules of law for all Roman citizens, which was important to have in any society. An interesting person in this time was someone named Cincinnatus, who was a consul and influential patrician. He was banned, though, to a small farm near the Tiber River because of law and political squabbles, and he was forced to retire there, involving the Senate over there. But he was respected still, and in 458 BC, a neighboring community was giving a legion some hell and could gain strength and overrun Rome and invade. They almost lost Rome altogether right in this time. So they called Cincinnatus and made him a dictator because he was an intelligent man, a general, and they chose Cincinnatus to lead and fight this threat. So he raised an army and saved the legion with a swift death blow, earning him a triumph after just 15 days. So a triumph would be done in the Forum right here. Any Roman general through all of history had a grand parade down this road right here where they would have all of their booty, loot, gold, slaves, captured kings, anything from all around the world. They would parade them right down this street. Maybe that one over there, actually, I'm not sure, but it happened right in the Forum here. Cincinnatus had himself a triumph after winning that. So 20 years later, interesting though, after that, he just retired again. So 20 years later though, he was asked to be dictator again and to end some strife, which he did again. In between the time of being a dictator, he was just a humble farmer and willingly gave up absolute power twice. Willingly gave up absolute power. A legend and honorable man in Roman history. Comparisons are made to George Washington in the USA Revolutionary War group that was invented called Cincinnati, the Sons of Cincinnatus, something like that. They loved George Washington. They compared him to this Roman man, and they actually named a city in Ohio named Cincinnati after this Roman kingdom or republic character from 400 BC. Cincinnati, Ohio. Hey, do you know the origins of your name? All right, so after other stories like Cincinnati and other things were going on. There was battles with the Etruscans and other niceties, and with the Greek colonies to the south that I've been to, Neapolis, Naples, Cumae, places like that, Capua, Sicily. Rome was getting stronger, but they were battered a little bit. They had to battle with the Etruscans all the time, and here in the Senate they were bickering about things all the time, and something terrible happened to Rome. 390 BC, one of its worst ever blunders of all time. An army from Gaul, which is modern day France, Gallic people, saw an opening for the tired out Rome, just like we're tired out from this day of history, and they sacked Rome. Oh man, the worst sack ever. A lot of the ancient records were lost. The Forum was disgraced. The temples were messed up. Thousands of people died. It was the worst sack of Rome almost of all time. They breached the weak walls that were here. So after that, they built the Severan walls, which portions still exist to this day, and rebuilt. They attacked the whole city except for Capitoline Hill over there, which is the only place the Romans held out from this terrible disaster. Many priceless and ancient valuable records. Who knows what was in those records that we lost knowledge of forever. The Severan walls were rebuilt, like I said. For another 800 years, a foreign invader would not enter Rome again. So they rebuilt after this, fixed things up in the Forum and different areas. 375 to 275 BC, a lot of territorial expansion enriched the city. Aqueducts were built. Aqueducts, that great water of Rome, carrying in fresh water. Many temples were built around here in the Forum again in the Republican era. Shrines used to be on every corner of every household. So this is interesting. You see it all the time in Italy. Everybody's god or goddess or cult that they liked, they would put up in their household. Or a cult isn't like a modern day cult, like psycho cult, like, oh, I'm a cult leader. That's what they called like each section of religion. Like, okay, my favorite god is Venus, so I do the cult of Venus. My favorite god is Jupiter. I'm part of the cult of Jupiter. So that's a cult, ladies and gentlemen, just in case you didn't know. So each household put their favorite cult of their favorite god. Oh, that looks pretty epic right there. If you've stand back a little bit, get the sunset. Look at that. Oh, over the forum. Woo-hoo. All right, so they put it on the corners of their houses and buildings. And it's funny because nowadays, and everywhere in Italy, you see the gods, not gods and goddesses anymore. You see Mary, Jesus, different saints, the Saint of Naples, the Saint Michael, you know, the Pope sometimes. Those are carryovers from those old days of the Republican worship. All right, different things happen in their religion, like hailstorms, diseases, eclipse, planetary movements. They read animal entrails that I talked about. They believed in all kinds of stuff was connected to the gods. Everything was connected to the gods. And soon more people came into the city, and Romans decided to accept their gods and goddesses, like from Egypt, Greece, and beyond. Even in one time in the 200s BC, they accepted a Carthaginian goddess, Magna Marta, for divine intervention to defeat their biggest threat, Hannibal and Carthage. Carthaginian self-castrated priest rode with her statue up the river Tiber, and the goddess was passed hand to hand into the city, just like a lot of rituals today with Mary. They do the same thing now. And actually it worked. They started worshiping this Carthaginian god, and the Punic Wars ended. Rome wasn't, thankfully, never attacked by Hannibal necessarily. He got close, but didn't make it. So a temple and her rituals were added to the month's calendar, and a few months later, Hannibal was defeated, Carthage was crushed, like I just said, and it seemed to work. And I think the forum is closing, so we're going to do this the rest of this video up there. Overlooking the forum. For now, large numbers of Roman citizens were required for this victory over Hannibal and the Carthaginians in the Punic Wars. Many Romans died in this 2 wars, really, the Punic Wars. It was really intense. The population plummeted because of this. Whole fields weren't being plowed because most of the soldiers were farmers at the time. It was a big sacrifice to win, but they crushed Carthage, destroyed the city, and this was the beginning of the real height of power of Rome and the whole Mediterranean. So they had colonies in Spain and now North Africa and all over the place. All being orated from right here, the Roman Senate. Right below me here, that's the forum, that was a temple, the Senate was right there. Forum of Peace was down there. I like that. Peace after the Punic Wars. Perfect for what we're talking about. By the way, Carthage is in modern day Tunisia is where Carthage was. Okay, so Rome was now world power, Mediterranean. Empire was established, although it was technically still a republic. But there was a lot of strong generals and that had a ton of political sway around this time, 200s BC. And also from all these military victories, masses of slaves came into the capital empire, which created a lot of wealth and let farmers get conglomerate, huge farms and all kinds of stuff. All right. Also, many people from around Italy and different areas came to the capital looking for work. They flocked to the capital, massively urbanizing the city. Large rows of apartments were built in several areas all along here. Very similar to the apartments we have today. Not as tall, obviously, but they were kind of like those buildings on that modern street right there. A lot of public works were done, public projects to keep up the masses of population growth. There were elites and a large lower class, and also many slaves. So food supply began to be a problem for all these new people coming in. The population was growing, around 500,000 people in the 200s, 100s BC. It may be more, up to 1 million. So grain was subsidized for bread, and it was given for free to all the poor citizens of the city. Think about that. That's hundreds of thousands of people. Free food. It's incredible. All right, so urban Roman elites, can't even talk, this is a long story, began hiring private armies, and they started living luxuriously. Strong leaders came about, like different generals and councils. The councils, remember, were the two leaders of the republic that is kind of like a prime minister and a president of a country. They vetoed each other. There's several famous names like Sola, Metellus, Gaius Marius, Pompey the Great. All these people began to be super influential in the late Republican times of city growth and power. So this guy Sola was really interesting. Sola had many successful campaigns all over the world. He was a brilliant general, tactician. And he was elected the governorship in 97 BC. And he went off on different battles, like the Social War in southern Italy, like in Pompeii and Neapolis, where people wanted to be citizens, and then they fought for, they gave them the right to be citizens, but they crushed them at the same time. That's another video. This guy, Sola, his story, it could be an entire 3-hour talk, just like Dan Carlin's Hardcore History podcast that he does about Sola and the late Republican empire, before the empire, I meant. All right, so during this time, Sola also went to southern Italy and crushed the slave revolt of Spartacus, which was a really crazy story. All right, so around 100 BC, it was either right there or on the other side. It said it was about 25 meters from the main site here is where Spartacus School was when he was here in 70 BC. It was built around 100 BC, maybe a little earlier, maybe a little later. Spartacus was here. Oh man, Spartacus was here. Now we're here. And not many else. That's sometimes how I like it, man. This is crazy. The gladiator school. All of what existed before this, though, this was built 100 AD. Spartacus happened in 70 BC. So none of that, what was here, exists. But I think what was here was used, the materials to rebuild this. They made it bigger. As the empire grew, first century, 100 AD, the empire was kicking on all cylinders, man, going hard, expanding, making tons of money. It was originally built in the Republic times, though, this place. Video about Capua, where I explain Spartacus' story. So this is getting into the 70s BC, around that time, 100s BC. All right, let's focus on Rome, though. So Gaius Marius was another man, and Sulpicius began wielding power in Rome when Sola was on campaign, which made many people nervous because they were young and inexperienced, one of the guys, and the other guy was just kind of crazy. When Sola was out on war, they caused many reforms and strife. 87 BC, Sola famously brought a Roman legion army into the city for the first time ever. So going into the city and causing any violence was outlawed, banned. This was the sacred eternal city. But with all these upstart generals and everything, Marius and Sola had to come in and show them who's boss. It was a lot of bloodshed and really crazy time for the city, actually. Sola addressed the people after leaving many dead. So like you either had to choose what side you wanted to be on, Marius or Sola. And like if you were on the losing side, man, like you and your family just all got killed. A bunch of bodies got thrown in the Tiber River. It's really crazy. So Sola, at the end of this, on top of Capitol Hill behind me here, addressed the Roman people, and he became pretty much dictator. Marius retreated, though. He didn't die in this bloodshed, And when Sola went off on battle again, Marius came back into Rome, causing all kinds of problems again. So 83 BC, Sola marched into the city once again. Another man, contemporary of Julius Caesar, Pompey, a young Pompey, another aristocratic nobleman, also raised a private army and caused another civil war with all these rival political factions in the Republic times. It's crazy trying to keep track of these stories. I recommend looking into it. There's a couple great podcasts about this. The History of Rome podcast, which I talk about a lot, Mike Duncan, and also Dan Carlin's Hardcore History, Big Death Throes of the Republic. It's like a 6-hour podcast that explains this whole story, if you're interested. Okay. So, and despite Sola was made dictator after crushing inexperienced and young Pompey in Rome. And 81 BC, this was setting the precedent for a young Julius Caesar, who was a kid, I think, during this time. So he was alive, and he knew about these stories, and his life story is a whole nother interesting thing. So, in the city, though, here in the Forum, despite all this turmoil, there was loads of riches coming in from all around the world, and many beautiful projects were built. The population was near 1 million at this time. Sola, after all this craziness, a life of war and battle, Sola, he died a peaceful death in retirement. So next, I think we'll go to Caesar's Forum to talk about the triumvirate.